salam and good evening to you, worthy friend. Please, please, come closer. Too close, a little too close. There. Welcome to Agrabah, city of mystery, of enchantment. The finest merchandise this side of the River Jordan, on sale today. Come on down. Look at this. Yes, combination hookah and coffee maker. Also makes julienne fries. Will not break. Will not. It broke. Oh, look at this. I have never seen one of these intact before. This is the famous Dead Sea Tupperware. Listen. Ah, still good. Wait, don't go. I can see that you are only interested in the exceptionally rare. I think then you would be most rewarded to consider this. Do not be fooled by his commonplace appearance. Like so many things, it is not what is outside, but what is inside that counts.
Shantae, the adventure platformer on the Game Boy Color. A game where you play as a half-genie girl who is the protector of Scuttletown. The goal is to stop Risky Boots, a pirate, as she plans to take over the Seven Seas. A lot of people haven't heard of Shantae, so what happened? The game released for the Game Boy Color after the Game Boy Advanced was already in circulation, which vastly overshadowed the game. Fortunately, the game was so charming that it quickly became a cult classic. Now today we have multiple Shantae games. My personal favorite has always been the first, however. Enough about the game though. We're here for the music. You're gonna have to excuse me as I start to fangirl right now because I am such a big fan of the composer for Shantae, and now I finally get to talk about him. You may know him as Bert, but most call him Jake Kaufman. The man's resume is extensive and almost always a paragon of video game music, and I can say without a doubt, I've listened to his music for years. In fact, I've made other people listen to his music against their will. You cannot escape it. I will find you, and I will show you, and then you're going to know everything that you could possibly ever know that you wouldn't even need to know, but you're going to. His work starts on the Game Boy Color with not Shantae, actually. That title goes to Qbert on the Game Boy Color. Yeah, the little hoppy guy. Listening to the soundtrack now just shows how qualified he was even at the time. As time went on, he made a name for himself in many games, but none more prolific than Shovel Knight. When people refer to Jake, they tend to always say, you know, the guy who did Shovel Knight. Shantae and Shovel Knight both cemented Jake's claim as a video game composer, but I think these days he has a grander idea for his music. I remember reading that he was working on a VR experience where you can listen to an orchestra like you're actually there or something. Seriously, I cannot stress enough how much I look up to Jake and his music, so this was going to be a stressful undertaking for me. I really want to make him and you guys proud of the songs I make for all of my videos, but especially this one. Before we get started, I have to explain what limitations the Game Boy has to work with. So we have 4 channels to work with: Pulse 1, Pulse 2, Wave, and Noise. At first glance, it seems not great, but the Game Boy sound chip is actually really versatile in different ways. So even though we are in fact very limited, if we think outside the box, the way that the pioneers did in the past, we can make some unique and catchy tunes. Now, when it comes to composing for Shantae, obviously there are some motifs to take in consideration, but also the fact that most of Shantae's music is rooted in the Phrygian Scale. That's the scale people use to make Egyptian-sounding Arabian stuff like you see in the movies all the time. In fact, it's kind of a meme. A little overdramatic, yeah. Anyway, first, I wrote some chords. Then, when I was happy with that, I laid out a beat so that I could start writing a melody as quickly as I possibly could. All the while, keeping in mind I had made special instruments and arpeggios to throw in here and there to spice up the variety of the melody. The thing about these instruments is I must be very careful not to place any of these sounds over each other to stay authentic to the hardware. For instance, the bass drum is just pulse 1 pitch bending a single note downward really quickly. That means that pulse 1 can only play that one note during that time. This created a very difficult workflow that could have been circumvented if I knew how to use a tracker or something that was actually designed to make that kind of music. Oh well. Next was the best part. Bass. Shantae has some of the sickest bass lines I have ever heard, so I was really looking forward to making my own. It took a while, but I'm pretty pleased with the results. After hearing the song to this point, I really wanted to add some counter melody to the main melody. It was difficult because of the limitations of only having 4 channels, but we out here, you know what I'm saying? After having a full loop, I extended it out once to solidify the melody and then began working on a transition. Of course, not before getting sidetracked by making the drums better. I wrote out the chords for the next section so I could write over it, but I really ended up liking the vibe I had created out of the chords alone and wanted to incorporate that as much as possible. After writing a melody line over the chords, I brought the drums over from the other side, but they felt super out of place. But I decided the rhythm could help me with writing the melody for this section, and I was right. I'm kind of realizing that I'm a very rhythmic-based writer, probably has something to do with my background in band percussion. I can hear the loud metronome blasting and everyone being out of time anyways, like it was yesterday. After that whole endeavor, I made sure none of the bass drum hits were overlapping the pulse 1 and moved on to the bass line. This bass line underwent many revisions, but nothing too crazy, just some cool riffs and stuff in between measures and whatnot. Finally, it was time to fix the drums in this new section because they were transferring their vibe over from the previous section and we really needed to just break away from that much more. Speaking of separating the previous vibe, I really went above and beyond and created a new lead for this section as well. 2 actually. They might not sound different now, but trust me when I say,
it's the simple things in life you treasure.
After fixing up some transitions and extending out the song to 1 loop, I was really starting to like how it was all coming together. And then it hit me. We need an intro. This led me to writing a new bass line for the start, as well as sound designing 2 new sounds based on previous ones, just a little more harmonious, if you know what I'm saying. A bunch of minor tweaks and some mixing later, we ended up with something I'm really happy with. I hope you guys enjoy, and yeah, go ahead and check it out. Well, Tivi, what did you think? Okay. Thank you.
You are welcome.
Alright, everyone. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to download the song, as always, it's going to be in the description. If you want to keep up with announcements and events like battling me and others to make the best chiptune songs, be sure to check out the Discord. I've made a bunch more of these where I make music for a particular game. If you're interested, you can check those out right here. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Later.